dear students. Let's take up one more exercise on structured query language and see how to create a new database. How to create a new database called company, in which there will be two tables. First one is employee table, which will store details of employee such as employee number, employee name, salary of the employee, department number in which that employee works, city in which the employee lives, and phone. Now, this employee number has to be primary key. So, two employees can't have same employee number. Secondly, employee number has to be unique. The second column, that is name of the employee, should be unique again. Note that it is not primary key, but employee name must be unique. So, this actually is a constraint. This is a constraint that we are adding. Constraint you can think of as a rule that we are imposing on a particular column. So two employees can't have same name. Actually, primary key is also called a constraint. We call it as a primary key constraint. This is also a constraint. Now, the third column, salary of the employee, must be greater than 30,000. That means while adding any new employee, you can't assign salary less than or equal to 30,000. It should be 30,000 or more. This is also called a constraint. This is called check constraint, as you will see in short while. This is called check. Whereas name must be unique. Unique is a type of constraint where the column should have unique values. Primary key is a constraint where the values must be unique and values cannot be null. The next column, department number, is actually a foreign key which references department number column of the another table DEPT, as you will see in short while. One more table we are supposed to create called department table, DEPT table. This will store details of each department. Now, as you can see, each department has department number, department name, and location at which the department is situated. Of course, department number must be unique. Each department should have unique department number and it should not be null. So department number is the primary key. Now notice the schema of this particular database company can be written in short like this. First table is employee. In fact, we are going to name it as EMP while designing. And the column EMP ID is underlined here to show that it is primary key, employee name, employee salary, department ID. That is the department in which this employee works, city in which the employee lives, and phone number. Similarly, department table has department ID as primary key, department name, and location in which the department is situated. Now, to understand this in a better way, let us see an instance of this database. Here are some sample rows of employee table. See that I have given some arbitrary names like A, B, C, and so on, but not the employee salary column. We are going to add a constraint called salary must be greater than 30,000. You can easily see that all salaries are greater than 30,000. Also, employee ID is the primary key, so it can't be duplicated. Further, you see, employee name should be unique. We have given that constraint, or we are going to give it in our command. So all the employee names are unique. I have given some arbitrary employee names. Also, you see department ID is actually a foreign key. What do you mean by this? We have seen in earlier videos. This department ID column is actually referencing department ID column of department table. See, there is another table called department table. Now, these are our departments. We have department number one, which is named as CS. And this department is located in Mumbai, department location. Similarly, second is admin, located in Delhi. And third is pay department, located at Kolkata. Now, what do you say about this department ID? This is a foreign key which is actually referencing department ID of department table. What that means is that the values under this column can exist only if that value exists in department ID column of department table. So you suddenly can't say I have an employee 109 whose name is, let's say, K, whose salary is, let's say, 97,000, and this person works in department number 4 and some city such as Delhi and some phone number. Now, this cannot be done because how can you have an employee working in fourth department when you do not have such a department itself? You can see that the valid departments in your organization are numbered as 1, 2, and 3. So the existence of value in this column, department ID, existence of any value depends on existence of that value in department ID column of the department table. So how do you read this? Department ID column of employee table, this column is the foreign key which references references department ID column of department table. What should be the sequence in which these tables should be created? Now, basically, you tell me, isn't department ID column of employee table dependent on it is this column is dependent on department ID column of department table. That means we should create department table first. I hope you are understanding. How can you create a table which is actually dependent on the other table? You can't create employee table first. Or you can think of this superficially as company will first create departments and then appoint employees. So it is meaningful to create department table first, isn't it? So what are the commands to create this? Although I have written create table employee first, but you should give this command first. You create DEPT table which has DEPT ID as integer. This will be the primary key. Department name is varchar 25, so it will be a variable length character. Department location is also varchar 20, it will be variable length character. And we have added a constraint. What constraint we have added is department ID will be the primary key of this table. Just observe creation of employee table. When you create employee table, we have employee ID integer. This is going to be primary key. Employee name varchar 20. Just check this word unique written immediately after this. So if you want any column to store unique values, I repeat, we don't want to make this column primary key, but we want it to be unique. Then just add this constraint unique. Similarly, employee salary is int, but we want employee salary to be greater than 30,000. That check has been done over here after defining all columns. Check bracket employee salary greater than 30,000. Department ID is an int, but department ID is going to be foreign key. That has been added here. Department ID is the foreign key which references DPT department ID. So you can read it like this, that department ID of this table .emp is the foreign key which references department ID of DEPT table. This is the DEPT table. So you can go through these commands, but what I did before actually recording this video, I have given these commands and I have added rows in these tables. As you can see, I have added 9 employees, 100 to 108 names. Salaries are greater than 30,000. Department numbers. Let's see department numbers. I'll give select star from DEPT. You can see that there are only 3 departments. So only 1, 2, 3 values can occur in department number column. Let's do an exercise. What we will do is we will try to insert into EMP. I just want to show you the constraints here. Values. Let's try to insert one new value or new 9 employee with name, let's say K, and salary. You see, purposely we will put salary as 20,000. But remember the constraint that we have added, salary must be greater than 30,000. And we will give this employee second department, and let's say this person stays in Mumbai. We can say hometown is Mumbai. And remember, phone number is varchar, isn't it? So we will give it in the quotes and we'll say 123, some arbitrary phone number I am giving. So let's see what happens is that it says constraint failed for company.emp. Company is the name of the database and emp is the table. Well, it is not very descriptive error, but we should understand that some constraint failed here. The constraint failed was about the salary. Salary has to be greater than 30,000, otherwise it will not accept this new row. Let's try something else. This time we will give salary as 40,000. So that's fine. This constraint has been observed. We will give the name of this employee as A. Remember, employee names also must be unique. Let's try this. It will give an error. Duplicate entry A for key employee name. So this is how the constraints are followed. Let's try some more things. Now we will obey both the constraints. We will give this person the name K, which is unique, and salary is 40,000, which is greater than 50,000. But we will give department ID as 4. You observe there is no such department. So foreign key constraint will be violated. It will show that foreign key constraint is violated. By the way, I don't have any plans of adding the row for 109. I was adding it just to show you the errors which can occur. So this particular exercise was only taken to explain these constraints which you can add while creating the tables. When we return in the next video, we will see some more exercises on SQL, select rows, and how to basically alter a table. There is one more command called alter table. After creating table, you would like to change a few things in the design of the table. Thank you very much.